Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Day 2 Breakfast with Bob from Hotel West End in beautiful Nice. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spas. SFuels Go Longer, HOKA Let's Fly, deboer Wetsuits, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Zoot Sports, the original triathlon brand, Quintana Premium Plus Sports, and of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest coming off a phenomenal race at Challenge Roth, really one of the greatest triathlons in history, a 46:47 swim, 3:57:45 bike, 2:37:09 run, 7:24 fastest iron distance event of all time. Magnus Ditlev joins us. Magnus, how you doing?
I'm wonderful, Bob. Thanks for having me. I just got straight from the morning swim here in the ocean, and it's super lovely here.
It's beautiful, right?
It's really. I was talking to my girlfriend while we were taking some small breaks in between that it's actually one of the coolest, nicest places we've ever swam, because the water is so clear and warm, and there is so much salt in the water.
Yeah, so buoyant,
so
yes.
You are just buoyant, and you feel really good when you're swimming. So it was a lovely start to the day.
It's funny, 'cause when you first sat down, I'm like, I remember the first time we chatted, you didn't have any of these things.
No. Yeah.
And sometimes it's good to sort of reflect back to where you were, because we were just talking to Sam Laidlaw. His whole family's been involved with triathlon, and Heldorn comes from a family that's involved with triathlon. So many of our pros, Rudy Von Berg, they grew up with it. You didn't grow up with any of that.
No, so none in my family have any particular background in actually any elite sports at all.
Yes.
So, and myself, I was just a very active kid from a young age, playing soccer and badminton, but never on like an elite team or anything.
Right.
So, and then I was kind of in a high school class with some elite runners, and I had quit soccer, and I got really good friends with them, and they asked if I wanted to come and run with them in the athletic club. So I kind of got introduced to, and they were elite runners, so at a really high level. So I got introduced to the high performance world through them, and it was more. I was also studying at university at that time, so I had a lot of stuff going on, and I think it's for me. I see it as a good thing that I kind of took the decision myself, and I could have chosen to just continue my studies and I finished the bachelor, but I decided to take a break between the bachelor and master.
What did you want to focus on?
I was studying to become a chemical engineer.
Okay.
So
which you can always do.
Yeah. Then now I have the opportunity, if something goes wrong, if I get a major injury or if I have a really bad crash, then it's good for me to know that I have something to rely upon if something terrible happens. But it just forced me to reflect on what I actually wanted to do with my life while I was studying and trying to become a professional triathlete at the same time. So I realized it was impossible, and I reflected and I thought, okay, I would probably regret if I didn't give triathlon a chance, like 100%. And I decided to take the break between the bachelor and the master to focus on the sport and see if I would be able to make it as a professional. And then the first year I had everything just clicked, but then COVID came, so it was kind of postponed a little bit, but it was.
It's not like there was a lot of history of great Danish triathletes, right? You had Thunder Bear, Torbjørn Simbali from way back.
Yeah.
And
Rasmus Henning.
Rasmus Henning and Michelle Vesterby and people like that, but not a huge history.
No, it's not. I wasn't even aware of those guys when I was like 6 years ago. I didn't even know about them. So it's something because I didn't do triathlon for that long and didn't follow the sport back then. So it's something I have learned afterwards, and now. Rasmus Henning is the sports director in Danish Triathlon Federation, so I get to see him quite a lot, and I know what he has achieved, and he's also won in Roth, the only other Dane. So it's cool to have a guy like him and be able to talk to him and seek advice from him. But as you say, it's not that like the German triathlon history or something else that is so rich. So, but I think we are in a good generation.
Such a good generation.
Maybe in 10 or 20 years, people will look back at the Danish triathlon and see it a bit differently.
It's interesting when you look back at the sort of for the Australians at Ironman World Championship. So, McCormick wins in 2007, then Craig Alexander wins 2 in a row, then Macca wins again, and then Crowe wins again, and then it's Pete Jacobs wins. So they had like 5-6 years in a row. Then you had 1 year with Belgium with Freddie Van Lierde. Then the Germans started, right? And it went basically 14 through 19 was all the Germans.
Yeah.
And you guys now with so many great Danish triathletes, and all of you guys are young.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is you guys are all 22, 23, 24 years old. Do you guys train together?
Actually, not
really, right?
Not really. So we are kind of based in different places.
Yes.
Even though Denmark is small, it's still like, so there is 3 elite centers, we call it, in Denmark. One in a town called Odense, where Daniel and Matthias and now Miki has moved to where I live, but he used to train with them also.
Yes.
And then there is one in another town called Aarhus, where Christian Høgenhaug is based, and then I'm in Copenhagen. But what is common for all 3 is that there is quite a strong squad of people
to train with,
meeting up every day. Like where I'm based in Copenhagen, we are maybe 10 to 15 elite athletes, all under the same coach. So he structures, of course, some of them are training for short distance, and I'm for long distance, but he just makes sure that we do the quality sessions on the same day, so we always meet up and then sometimes I have to do some different intervals, but still we meet up the same days and do the hard sessions. Feels like together, so it's super motivating.
Well, and if you look at the history of all sport, you can't do it on your own. Steel sharpens steel. You need to have other elite athletes training with you in order to get better, because there's going to be days where you don't feel it, and days where the guy you're training with does, and you're going to push each other.
Yeah, even though I really enjoy actually sometimes just training
by
myself, but it's like, especially for the swim, we often swim in the morning, and that can be, it's super good to have a lot of people around you, and some of them are also doing short course, so they have a really high swim level, the people I train with, which is good. And
that's good, because you're training with people who at this point aren't competing with you for prize money, right? They're trying to make the Olympic team, but they can help you with your swimming.
Yeah, exactly. We try to also, what is common for also all the really good Danes at the moment, I think we try to make each other better.
Yes.
And not just, I feel like sometimes when you have when you see 2 really big athletes from the same country, it can almost seem like they try to fight for the same or try to be the best.
The best Danish athlete.
If we try to be the best Danish athletes, then there will probably be 5 Germans that's going to beat us anyway. So it's like you
need each other.
We need each other, yeah. And that doesn't mean that when I see Daniel or see Christian win, I will always think, oh, that would be super cool to beat them.
Right.
Of course, on race day I want to do that, but still in the everyday cycle, we try to make each other better.
Was there a point, because you started in this, fairly young, that you thought Olympics, or was it always longer?
No, not really. When I got into the sport, I was not even aware of how the Olympic triathlon format works, and still it's very complicated.
It's very complicated to me.
With qualifying, but I never had the swim level.
Right.
So
that's the point,
it was never an option for me, so I actually started out as racing as an age grouper.
Yes.
So it was never really
part of the equation.
Never possible.
When did you feel that you could go pro? Did you have a race that, I'm ready?
I was starting to work with my coach, and then before that I was training myself and training way too much and way too hard, so I didn't really improve that much, even though I was
always tired.
Training probably more than I'm doing now, which is crazy to think of. So I started to work with him, and we saw progress like immediately, and everything was just rising and coming together. And then I was signed up for my first professional race, which was supposed to be Challenge Mallorca. I think it was in 2018.
Yes.
But then I had 2 really serious bike crashes in a row, like one that where I broke I broke my collarbone and shoulder and the other arm, so that sidelined me for more than a year.
Wow.
And then I came back from that, and then I crashed the second time. So combined, it was like 1.5 to 2 years where I wasn't able to race, which was
and then
quite
COVID
tough.
hits.
And then I got back and I raced. I think I maybe did one smaller race, but I wasn't really like competitive because I've been sidelined for so long. But we could still see that my bike level, because I was able to bike in that period, was just really, really good. And then COVID hit, so it was just a long period of training and trying to believe that I was telling everyone that I was actually a professional triathlete, even though I'd never raced a pro, which was quite tough to. But that's where my coach was really good to me and kind of
he saw your future,
helped me stay motivated, because he's a former pro athlete himself. So he saw what I was able to do and what he did, and he could see that I was like much better than what he ever was. And then once the races opened up after COVID, I think that's really where we saw that I ended up winning my first race after COVID, which was 70.3 in Poland.
Yes.
And it was not a big event, but it was because everyone hadn't raced for so long.
People were there.
So even though it was a small race, everyone was there. So, and that was probably the moment where I thought, okay, I'm
beating the best guys in the world.
Yeah, exactly. I beat Patrick, and that was super huge.
That's very cool. And then the other day when you were doing the swim, I noticed you had like a scale.
Yeah.
Is it to try to make sure you've got the right weight because this is a lot of climbing on this course?
Yeah, so we are quite scientific in the way we work.
Yes, you are.
It was because I wanted to see how much weight I actually lose by doing the swim test, and it's more than you think. So
really?
Yeah. So
what'd you lose?
It's such a long day, Ironman racing. So you are out on the. Yeah, you are active for more than 8 hours, and if you don't know your sweat rates and everything, then you can really get in trouble.
You know, in the did I tell you that early days of triathlon, they used to weigh us during the race?
No.
Yeah.
During the race?
During the race in 78, 79, and 80. Yes, when I just first did it in 1980. You had to get off your bike like 3 times during the bike, and then in the run. And if you lost 5% of your body weight, they pulled you out of the race.
Yeah, it's crazy because like I'm sweating around 2 liters per hour.
Yes.
And times 8 hours, that's like 16
wow.
liters if you don't replace some of it, which is impossible to replace everything, but you have to really be careful.
Yes, what you're doing. And this course.
Yeah.
Right. This course is something a lot of people go, oh, Magnus is too big. It's a lot of climbing, and but it's a type of climbing that you feel is a power. And Cam Wharf said the same thing. This sort of a power type of climbing course.
Yeah. To be honest, I was quite because before I arrived, I was listening to interviews and podcasts, and everyone was saying, Magnus is too heavy and he doesn't know how to handle a bike going downhill, and you kind of, even though I didn't really, you start to think about it in your head and maybe a little bit believe it, but then once I arrived here and got to see the course, that was really I'm happy that I've been here for 2 weeks now, and it will be 3 weeks once the race arrive, and it has been super good to get the course under my skin, and I feel like every time I do the course I learn something new about it, because it's not just a lot of loops. It's so the variation out on the course is huge, and as you say, in my opinion, the climbs are more power-based and actually suit me quite well, because I do, you can kind of see what times people have done on the climbs during the races and compare to that, and I feel like I'm pretty competitive there. And it's not, I think maybe it would be correct if it was like 10%.
If it's 10% greater, an Alpe type of long
exactly.
climb.
But it's more like 4 or 5% for long periods of time. We're actually going close to 25 kilometers per hour.
Right.
So I think it's going to create a lot of separation, and generally the harder the bike course,
better for you.
The better for me.
Well, and it's funny because I think people underestimate how hard Challenge Roth bike course is.
Yeah.
People think that it's they see Solar Hill. That's the beginning of the conversation. There's a lot of other climbing out there besides Solar Hill.
Yeah, it's like really up and down a lot of times, and it's every time I do the race in practice, like I usually arrive 1 week before the race, and I go so slow, and I can't understand how I should be able to ride fast on the race day because there's so many small climbs, but I think what is going on is just you just carry so much speed around the entire course from downhills, and if you're able to push big power on the climbs, then you can kind of carry the speed on top of the climb. So it always end up being a really, really fast race.
Well, in this from 80 miles on this course, it's a lot of down, right? A lot of down and a lot of, but a type of downs where you still have to be pedaling.
Yeah,
there's really no relaxation at all on this course.
No, for a lot of time you're actually pedaling on downhills even, which is, I think you just have to be. That's probably going to be very difficult because like pacing this one is difficult, and you feel you're almost done when you have 40 Ks left, but you can't switch off at any time. So I think it would be cool if there were, obviously I want to have a gap on a lot of the strong runners, but maybe if, for instance, if Sam and I could ride away like we did in Roth, and he obviously knows the course, so I think it's going to help if you are two people, so you can kind of switch off a little bit.
One follow somebody's line on a down.
Exactly, that's what we did in Roth, and that worked really well.
Yes.
So if he's up for it, that would be super
you know
cool.
what? I think he's going to be really. If it wasn't for having calf issue, you both helped get rid of everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want Patrick Lange coming off the bike with you.
No.
And he had a really good bike ride in Roth. He did not have a bad bike ride. So when you look at Challenge Roth and the race that you had there, and obviously you were already defending champion going in, but you go 7:24, a 2:37 marathon. Obviously you're a scientific guy, so you know what you're capable of. But did you surprise yourself with that?
I wouldn't say I surprised myself. Actually, we knew that was...
You were ready.
I knew I was in the shape of my life. I think I'm a little bit better now, which is good, and which is probably going to be needed. But it wasn't that surprising, actually, to us. What we knew the numbers and everything was, if I have the perfect day, then it should be possible. But what is just so difficult with Ironman racing especially is there is so many pieces of the puzzle that needs to align in order to have everything go your way. And I think just from starting the swim, I was like, after 100 meters, I was on the feet of Ben Canute, which
that's exactly where you want to be.
I could see the lead kayak the whole way, and when that happened, I thought, okay, I'm in for a really good race. And came out of the water in the front group and tried to make some separation, and pretty quickly got away with Sam. And then from there on, it was just one of those days where everything aligns, which is very rarely does. But I wouldn't say it was a huge surprise for me.
Yes, and you can't really plan those things. It's like, okay, I'll try to come out of the water with you. It never happens. Yeah. You're with whoever you happen to be with, and then try to tag team if you can, and get away.
Yeah, it was such a
special,
crazy day. Yeah.
Well, and the hard part is once you've won a race, now all the crosshairs are on your back. Everybody's like, okay, he's the guy to beat. He's the guy to beat. There's way more pressure as a defending champion. Did you feel that at all?
I wouldn't say I felt like really nervous because of the pressure. It was like I really liked the atmosphere in Roth.
So
and
great.
When I arrived back there after winning the year before, it was quite special for me because I felt welcomed like almost like a German, which is I was very thankful for. So I also wanted to do my very best to perform again and deliver a good performance and put on a show. And Luckily, I did that.
You did exactly that.
And then the reaction afterwards was just...
was it crazy?
Yeah, it was crazy. It's like I couldn't even go through, to get to the tent where the volunteer party is. I had to be escorted on the back out because there was otherwise it would take half an hour for me to get there because everyone
Autograph
just
and
wanted
photos.
to take photographies and
Was that obviously that happens to you a lot now?
Yeah, not really. Like when I'm back in Denmark,
You're just Magnus.
Yeah, exactly, and that's pretty good. I think
that's okay. It's sort of nice to be in a sport like this, where you can decide when you're okay with I'll sign autographs for an hour, but if I walk into the airport, nobody knows who I am.
Yeah, I
can
think
sort of
it's
make that decision.
It must be really difficult for people like that are proper superstars to be recognized everywhere
they can't leave the house.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting. If you watch that Michael Jordan movie, The Last Dance, and it's like people think it'd be great to be Michael Jordan. Yeah. As soon as you leave your hotel room, you're
it has some downside, and probably not downsides, but it has some other. A lot of things follow from being that popular, and you have to really think a lot about how you behave. And
how what it would mean to you to win this world title?
It would mean really a lot. It's the World Championships is probably the race when I got into triathlon, not really coming from any like traditional background and knowing about Olympics or anything. It's Kona was the first thing when I started seeing videos of professional triathletes and learning that there was actually a professional side to the sport also. I saw Jan and Sebi and everyone like racing in Kona, and that kind of became the pinnacle in my head of triathlon is winning the World Championships. And since then I think it has just been has had a very special place in my heart. Obviously Roth also is up there, probably in the same league in my head, but the World Championships is for sure something that would be really mean everything. And it's what the entire year has been based. We had like Roth and then this one, and then I would do the PTO races, but it was really like about these two full distance races for me this year.
And I know 2 years ago when you won Roth, you were looking forward to running with Jan, right? And this year, hopefully, maybe hopefully behind, but you might get that opportunity in his last race.
Yeah, it's also a special situation knowing that it's going to be his last last World Championship, maybe even his last professional race. That's going to be really special, and I feel like from Roth 2 years ago, where he had to pull out on the run, and then we were in a similar situation this year in PTO US Open, and I had to pull out because of stomach issues. So I really hope that we get to have
that battle on the promenade. That would be so cool for the sport. That would be
really cool. Yeah,
I love it. Appreciate you taking so much time. I love where you've come. Just seeing just what a special young man and how you represent the sport so well. It means the world. And my favorite thing is seeing all these sponsors. That means that you're doing the right stuff, that people want to invest in Magnus Ditlev, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Bob.
Magnus Ditlev has been our guest. Everybody, again, Breakfast with Bob. We're in beautiful Nice, France. Hold on. We will be right back.